gamers. It's another beautiful day full of opportunity.
Okay, we're looking for the mainframe. It's critical that you deliver the payload to that location.
Howdy, Booble, how art thou today? Doing okay, good. Oh, there you go. There you go.
Your target is this location's computer system. Find and access the terminals. We need to destroy the reactor. The reactor will have tight security.
The Hema is nearly maxed, and I'm at the stage where I'm just having to cook a billion formas. And I should, question mark, in theory, have enough forma beeps in order to get all of the remaining Kuva and Tenet and whatnot weapons up, I think, question mark. Howdy, Perrin. Hope I'm doing well. I am pretty dandy today. Can't complain, can't complain. How about you? It's our typical morning. We had a nice sausage and egg bagel. And we're sipping our coffee and warring some frames. Got my screenshot Saturday posted early too. Being mildly sick. I'm glad you're coming to the end of that. It's always an inconvenience.
That's the reactor. Expose its core and destroy it.
And
target destroyed. Proceed to the extraction point.
pretty much just collecting. Right now we're going after a Kuva Lich. That is the only Kuva weapon I don't have yet. Which is the Sobek. And then we will probably go in after the Sisters of Parvos. I have to pull up the wiki to see which ephemeras I don't have. First or second? I believe my first was the Kraken. Yeah, most of the Kuva weapons are pretty good.
Everyone pays in my playground, one way or the other.
I'm also tempted to convert this one because she has a really nice look. Show her off real quick. Oi. She looks like this.
Holding back.
Which is pretty sweet. Let's go to exterminate. Exterminate, exterminate.
There is a large platoon of Grenier Marine stationed here. Leave no one standing.
I'll have to... So I've actually written down a list of what I do and don't need. Well, just what I don't... Just what I do need, but like... I'm trying to get mastery on everything I haven't yet to... You know, get up my MR... I think I'm halfway to LR4.
Stay focused. There's a heavy unit approaching.
And I think tonight is when the Coda weapon shop cycles. So we'll be going right back to farming heartstrings after we're done farming the rest of the Kuvan Tenet stuff. I believe I have like 25 heartstrings pocketed, or living heart cells, I think it was called. So I can get 2 more of the Coda weapons easy cheesy right away as soon as they're available. But there are, I believe, 5 of the Coda weapons aren't out yet until the shop cycles. Let me check X-Sand, I want to do X-Sand. I capped off my hex standing before the update and dumped it all on the Skuldra weapons. And also the new Soma Chord music. Also, they have some ROMs of the one arcade game and the driving mini game that you can buy, so you can just play them in your hub. And you don't have to go specifically to the mall to do them anymore. Until they let us buy relic packs from the Hex, we don't really have much else I really care to get. I'll probably buy the cosmetic stuff from Quincy, and maybe furniture from Frost from time to time, but like, Elemental Vice for the Sobek. Which one was Elemental Vice? I mean, I suppose I can just check it out, since this is the end of the mission.
A little treat from my little meat. Thank you, darling.
Oh! Yeah, that thing. I forgot that existed. Let's see, who sells that? Was it Eleanor?
I wonder if she'll share that couch.
Oh, thanks. Please, let's have
Yep.
some fun.
Buy one.
I am sure you'll do. It was lovely catching up.
Wrong area. Weapon has to be at 40. Fair enough. Where are you? Code of Metaphor. Valence override. And I mostly just wanted to see it's Kogani and Sculpture. Interesting. So impact. I'll probably use that on something that I have kept at you know, the 60% valence bonus. So I don't have to worry about that. I don't feel like doing speed. Mobile defense, sure. Me too.
Defense mission. You must deliver payloads and defend a number of locations while I break into the network. Be prepared for heavy resistance. I can't do this without you.
It's honestly nice that that UI is in, like, all together. There's a lot of... Oh, I equipped my motor. There's a lot of... quality of life features they've added over the years, and it is nice to see how far the game has come along.
Location reached. Drop me in and defend our position.
Should definitely have the murmurs to finish this.
I'm in, Tenno. This will take a moment.
One more murmur. If you're wondering why my Motivore is set up for puncture, it's because I'm using melee dowdy on it and giving it 12 times a crit damage per stack of crit. Played last year. And everyone's got to start sometime. Yeah, I've been playing since 2019 myself. And a murmur has been fulfilled.
Terminal spotted. Upload me and prepare to defend. I'm in, Tenno. This will take a moment. Stay focused. There's a heavy unit approaching. You are surrounded by Grineer Marines.
I think Slash is probably the best one to use if you want to, like, min-max the thing.
Still working on it.
Because Slash gets an extra 100% status chance, I believe, if I remember right. Which is, of course, great for Slash because you want to proc that Slash. But I do find it amusing that the thing can be an absolute crit stick with melee Dowdy. Which is why I did it, was to have
Move on.
a little variation in my weaponry, because, you know, the go-to is just condition overload build. Because, you know, it's all purpose, it works for pretty much every situation. But doing the same thing over and over again is a little tiresome, so. So I tried to make the thing look similar to like a
There is a terminal.
thorny rose.
Let me in and get ready to defend.
If you see it.
I'm in, Tenno. This will take a moment.
I really enjoy the Motavores gimmick though. I almost want to get
I remember every moment you shared.
3 of them,
Touch, every lash, every
just to have different ones, but if anything, I can just make each of the loadouts for the thing be for each of the primary
oh,
elements.
No. Don't make me forgive you. Not again.
Motivare
Still working
is
on it.
melee
Continue to
influence.
defend.
Don't remember what melee influence is, I'll have to look.
Oh, I see you. Can you see me? You're much closer now.
Wrong one. Melee influence it was. The electric one. Which is pretty neat. I still have things to grind out, like melee duplicate and crescendo. Crescendo is really good on Ash, because Ash's teleport, I think it was called, you can just boost this thing for free. Spread all the statuses? I thought it was just for a status. Wow. So I need more of those. I also want more melee vortex, because that's what I was using on my Livia. There we go. Didn't Livia. Because I have magnetic and gas on this thing. I basically made it to be a tech rot killing machine. Just constantly suck in tech rot and mulch them. I do need to re-roll this. I want to have some extra speed. What is that? Rockabilly 2. Boom. Now we just need 1,000,000 more focus, and then we're finally done getting every tree to max. Okay. Let's do a mission that we can't just arbitrarily lose instantaneously. Well, here's a question. Is it all statuses that are just on the weapon, no buffs included, or does it also include any active buff on the player? Like, I could use Zaku's the whisper thing. and get void damage on the weapon, would that also proc? It's just nice. Not sure about that. Suppose there's always a way to find out. Also thinking of exchanging one of my ability strength Arcane Shards for a time extender shard instead. He says no. Tragedy. Zada's Whisper is such a weird ability too. Like, it applies void damage, but not real void damage. Like, it won't hurt Eidolons and things, but it'll do extra damage to sentience. Tier 1 and 2 elements, no void or Tau. When are we going to get the Tau damage mods? DE. Let him come. Also, it is funny having mods specifically to resist Tau damage, but there's only like 3 enemies in the game that deal Tau damage. Ever wonder how these guys get in here? Did they purposely put on the broken grate themselves? Howdy, Trev. How ya doing today? Hanging out in the busted underground base. Because they're controlling the territory. And they can only do that by existing there. Because people want to control the frozen corpus wreckage that's on Mars? Question mark? Doing alright, finishing Persona 5. Someday I'll get my mitts on Persona 5.
Stay focused. There's a heavy unit approaching.
It's me, I'm the heavy unit. What? We just go back up and down, killing every enemy that spawns. Because the game didn't spawn enough enemies as we went along. So it's gotta spawn them all now.
The enemy is broken. Well done. Now get to extraction.
I didn't say you could play here. Now, give me that.
Alrighty, time to find out what our thingy is. Pour me some more coffee. I think that's what I have equipped.
Show me
Yeah. Alright. Is there a capture I can do? There's a disruption. The best feeling in the world is getting
Received intel that somebody vital to
your
enemy
lich
operations is
first
here.
try.
And capture them.
No hints whatsoever.
You found a target. Capture them quickly before they escape. Success. The captive is safely in our hands. Congratulations, Tenno.
Do the Archimedia. I just can't get into the Archimedia myself. Like, I don't mind challenges and stuff, but like the restricted loadout is what kills the enjoyment for me. Maybe it's just something I'm not getting with it. But when it's doing things like, oh yeah, do this with the stug, and just like, why?
This has to hurt, little meat. Or else, why bother? You do understand that dirt is just another word for filth? This entire planet is made of feculence. I'll never get clean. I'll never get clean. Perhaps you deserve this.
Remember when those grapple attacks from the liches were an OKO?
Oh, little meat, I will not die easily. The old blood flows within me, deathless.
There we go.
Stay focused. There's a heavy unit approaching. Mission complete. Excellent work, Tenno.
Random clutch loadouts can be fun. I got another O? Nice. There's one in Archimedia that let me use Lavos, and it's like, yes, a good frame!
All is well, I trust.
I suppose there is a time for everything, even this. So be it.
Engineer forces massing alongside that galleon. Bodyguard detail. Captain. Nervous. Let's see. Dead. Infiltrate and turret. Multiple bogies. Man the guns.
Okay, where is everything? A what? Mr. Obama? There.
Enemy pilots are panicking.
Okay, now where are the cruise ships?
Crasher. Rainier cruise ship.
One part short of making the Corvix. Which one was the Corvix? I don't remember off the top of my head. Get zorched.
Ship down. That clears up some space. Incoming attack craft. Crew, light them up.
Cement nuclear flame. Oh, that one! The arc gun.
Scratch one cruise ship. Enemy fighters on the run.
I can't wait for him to get a prime. I really like his stuff.
Arcwind slingshot loaded. 10 in the barrel.
JC crew members. Hup, to it. Alright, where am I going?
infiltrate and terminate.
Well, before it gets primed, I believe the next one is Kome, isn't it?
Oh, little meat. Really? The system won't be the same without you. You do understand that dirt is just another word for filth? This entire planet is made of feculence. I'll never get clean. I'll never get clean. Little meat.
She doesn't
you
like
really
the kitty.
cannot keep interfering like this. You know I have to stop you. Little meat. This fight won't be like the last time. I can promise you that. Oh! Ah! Whoa!
Rude. Energy. Someone give me a blueberry. I'll keep her.
I knew you wanted me.
Next is Urella. Oh yeah, Urella, that's the name. I mixed up the name with the dice lady. Then Caliban. The best part about primes is when they're far more reasonable to obtain than the basic versions.
But no more than 5 minutes downtime.
Though I suppose they made grinding for Caliban stuff a little more reasonable than it used to. Alright, let's cook up another. So I can get that Sobek. Imba. Yes, I'm trying to get the Vengeful Flame or whatever. Cassini. Sorry, I know it was rough. Yeah, it can be. Especially since, like, all the nice stuff in the game is in-game, basically. So, I have friends that are just like, they don't want to play the game because it's just a grind at the start. You start with, like, nothing, you have no slots. It's honestly very rough for new players. Especially if you're not willing to spend a little coin on the game. Which you can't really blame new players for not wanting to spend coin on the game right away.
By Premier Marines.
Right, there's a sucky jet.
Subject found in your name.
Never played an RPG before. It's not that kind of grind. It's other stuff. Checker. Me. It's things like you only start with, I believe, 3 Warframe slots. And there are over 50 Warframes in the game. Not counting Prime versions, of which we're getting into the hundreds. If we count them. I believe there's like 104? 103? Let me
Stay
look.
focused. There's a heavy unit approaching.
Show profile. Equipment. Frames. 106. That was close. You get plat from other players and from illustrating. Yep. Plus,
Job well executed.
can you really expect new players from, like, knowing the farm, as it were? Like, a player gets their hands on a really good ribbon, they don't know. New players often don't really know how to load out their stuff with the mod slots either. So it's hard for them to tell what's good and what isn't. So you get something that's like, oh, plus 50 zoom on this Riven mod for the shotgun. Wow, that's great. No. Most stuff has a credit price. Yeah, that is something that takes you off by surprise, because, like, it lists the platinum price for everything.
You are here on
Which
a
can be
capture
very
mission.
rough.
You must find, capture, and extract our target.
It's generally recommended to never spend plat on
Found the target.
weapons like that.
Before they escape.
Not worth it at all.
Success. The captive is safely in our hands. Congratulations, Tenno.
It's time to suck some jets.
Soldier, you have been nominated.
Oh, they're not a suck jet this time.
In our fortress.
What you get? Com.
Stay focused. There's a heavy unit approaching. You are surrounded by Premier Marines.
Ooh, celery. This is definitely the sort of game that you kind of want to look up guides to get some grounding with things like what should you prioritize and whatnot, and also basics on how to mod weapons. Is you don't need to know how to min-max all the weapons, you just need to know some basic stuff and then you're golden. Generally, I recommend players to like try to complete all the nodes and do all the story they can as fast as they can, because that gives them full access to everything they need.
You are here on a capture mission. You must find, capture, and extract our target.
Nope. So never ever buy from Darvo Deals. Whoever keeps buying from them,
Before they escape.
who hurt you? Because there's always some goob out there
Captive has been escorted
that buys the Darvo Deals until they're sold out.
Soldier, you have been nominated. Your glory awaits in her fortress.
Mummiated. Fireball! 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 Oh, I'm out of energy. What you got? Seer? Me.
Heads up. A Grenier assault team is headed your way.
Salt team.
Mission complete. Excellent work, Tenno.
I think I only need like 10 holokeys to get my next Tenet melee weapon. Which I have my eye on Grigori because that's what I have a ribbon for. Dang Syndicate mission.
You are here on a capture mission. You must find, capture, and extract our target.
Also, the game does a poor job of explaining
Capture the
syndicates to new players. Like, I didn't join the syndicate until I already completed the star chart, because I was under the impression it was like PvP stuff,
excellent
when in reality it's just like bonus loot system.
Soldier, you have been nominated.
So many nominations. What happened to all the sucking jets?
Marines
Shielded.
inbound. Stay focused. There's a heavy unit approaching.
So, we've got about 2 months and 1 week until the new Elden Ring. I am very looking forward to it. And I am wondering what the lore is going to be.
You are here on a capture mission. You must find, capture, and extract our target.
Because, like, until the reveal trailers for Night Rain, it was just sort of like fanning that Dark Souls and the other games are like just one universe, but at different time periods and locations. And then they just straight up have the Nameless King and Centipede Demon and Duke's Freya and all that, and it's just like, you're just casually going to drop this on us and have the Firekeeper from Dark Souls 3 in there. Yeah, okay. So I'm curious, how much of this is going to be like lore, trademark, copyright, and all that?
Subject found.
Oh, there we go, a jet to suck.
Initiating reclamation.
And
Watch yourself. Grenier are on the way.
I feel like this is why the Coda weapons are in a shop now,
There's a heavy unit.
instead of you just going into missions, checking if a guy has the weapon you want. If they don't, leave and try. Because he wants the experience to be a little less obtuse. And a little less RNG. Though they do make the cosmetic stuff's RNG. Though it doesn't appear to be connected to the progenitor anymore. It's just purely RNG, which is a bit of a shame.
Mission complete. Excellent work, Tenno. You are here to find our target and bring them to the extraction point. Happy hunting. Target located. Bring them in. Excellent work. We'll interrogate the captive back at base. Your part is done here, Tenno.
Soldier, you have been nominated.
If you're wondering why I'm sitting around killing guys, it's because the lich doesn't appear until you've killed a certain amount of enemies after the lights flicker in this stage. Another reason why I'm playing Ember is because I just want to nuke as many guys as I can easily.
Stay focused.
That, and also I need the fire specific ephemera.
Here are on the way.
I'll eventually go back and collect the rest of the ephemeras.
Mission complete. Excellent work, Tenno.
But that day is not today. I think I have 4 of them, and there are 6 total? Per each guy. It might only be 5 for the Coda guys, but they also have emotes as well. Of course, with them being new, the wiki doesn't have all the information on them, or really any information, but pour the last little bit of my coffee.
You are here to find our target and bring them to the extraction point. Happy hunting. Scans indicate our target is in the vicinity. Find them. Target located. Bring them in. Success. The captive is safely in our hands.
Oh,
Congratulations, Tenno.
Whee!
Soldier, you
You-
have been nominated. Your glory awaits in her fortress.
Fireball! Meh.
Watch yourself. Rainier are on the way. Stay focused. There's a heavy unit approaching. Another job well executed.
I beat the mission again. Consent it. keep forgetting that the Syndicate mission's messing this up. Let's see. From the sisters, I need Tenet Galaxion, Tenet Tetra, Tenet Detron, Tenet Diplos, and Tenet Plinks. So we got a whopping 5 things from
We're on
them
a capture mission.
that we
Must
need to
find,
get.
capture, and extract our target. You found a target. Capture them quickly before they escape. The capture target has vital information that we will need to extract. We need our subject brought back alive. Excellent work. We'll interrogate the captive back at base. Your part is done here, Tenno.
Come on, lights, flicker. Already flicker and I just didn't notice. So just start killing things and pray for the best. I'm not noticing anything. Did I fail? Oh, there it goes.
Focus.
Took a
There's
while.
heavy unit approaching. You are surrounded by Grenier Marines.
Queens will not be pleased. Clone rot has gone too far. Send word.
Yeah. I like the Yanga. It is a dandy arc gun.
Mission complete. Excellent work, Tenno.
Let's see what today's sortie is. Or not. A little too fast.
We received intel that somebody vital to enemy operations is here. Find them and capture them. You found a target. Capture them quickly before they escape. Excellent work. We'll interrogate the captive back at base.
That's
Your
quick.
part is done here, Tenno.
Inform the queen we have found their subject.
I have found the jet that sucks.
Heads up, a Grenier assault team is headed your way.
Check this guy out. It's Sad Meatball.
Stay focused. There's a heavy unit approaching. Mission complete. Excellent work, Tenno.
I'm gonna check to see if my farm is ready. It should just about be there. $40 so like 40 past the hour, I guess. And over here.
Let's see. Hello. To what? Please, let's have
7 hours. So yeah, tonight things get cycled out. So if you have anything that you'd like to get your mitts on, you only have 7 hours to do it. Yes, I wanted to look at the highlights of the update totally and not scroll down on the menu that I was in. Rapture.
We received intel that somebody vital to enemy operations is here. Find them and capture them.
This is one of the reasons why I kind of am apprehensive about streaming Warframe, because there is a lot of just sort of mindless, repetitive grinding. Which can get boring for people.
Track them down quickly. Excellent work. We'll interrogate
At the same time, I'm not really, like,
part is done here, Tenno.
in the mood for anything.
Subject found. Moderate clone rot. Initiating reclamation.
Maybe when I am like this, I could probably just do speed runs or something. Maybe a randomizer. Grattler. The plain Grattler is stinky garbage. The Kuba Grattler is actually good. Like the plain Grattler is like do with its fire rate, and I'm just like, why is it so slow? But the Kuba Grattler actually fires at a rate you'd expect, where it goes It's like, it's what the Grattler should have been. Anyway.
Stay focused.
Speaking of randomizers and speedruns, tomorrow is DK64, so
Great work. I am pleased.
expect that. But Monday we won't be having a stream. Not likely anyway. I am going to be busy that day. And And I'm not sure if I'll be here Tuesday either. But Wednesday things should be normal again. And honestly, this little thing that we're doing right now, pulling the Gashapon to see if we get the soap back again, is one of the reasons why I was apprehensive about converting that Lich. Because I like the way she looks, but I also don't like having to do this. It's not very engaging. I should probably pop that zit, shouldn't I?
Success. The captive is safely in our hands. Congratulations, Tenno.
It's not that I'm afraid of losing viewers or anything, it's more of... I just don't want people to have to suffer through boredom, because even I get bored doing this. And I'm the one playing it. New core. Solid weapon, don't need it.
Stay focused. There's a heavy unit approaching.
And for example, last night, I was watching Motel Hell. Yeah, Motel Hell. Not to be confused as Gordon Ramsay's Hotel Hell. Motel Hell is a horror movie. It's a pretty fun one, too. Made in 1980. It has that stank that 70s movies has, but it has the fun that 80 movies has. It's like a progenitor to the golden age of horror. In a way. That and Alien both were like... let me reword all this. Give me a second to collect my thoughts and reorganize. So, between every decade, like the last few years and first few years of each decade, there is, of course, some crossing of iconic trends from those eras. This is with any sort of artistic form, taste and stuff and whatnot. Like the LOL XD era is commonly associated with 2010s, for example. It's like, stuff like that doesn't just die overnight. It changes with time. And in my experience, horror movies in the 1970s were not good. It was a very low time for horror.
Stay focused. There's a heavy unit approaching.
Can't recall anything about the 60s. Like the golden ages of horror. Well, golden age of horror, in my opinion, the 80s. The silver age, the 50s. Bronze age, like 40s, I guess. 30s to 40s. Anyway. Alien, I believe, came out 79, and Motel Hell, of course, came out 80. So, there are certain qualities of the films that do represent their eras, respectively, where Alien, as we all know, because it's so damn popular, was pretty heckin' good. Despite the age it came from, it really pushed boundaries and laid the ground for what basically were the most popular trends in horror that came in the 80s. Yeah, Motel Hell, though that movie is more of a cult classic, it is good. Where it has this, like I said before, a little stank, because
We received intel
in the
that enemy
70s,
operations is here. Find them and capture them.
the audio and camera quality were not the best. It's one of the more muddier times for film.
Target located. Bring them in.
Like a movie I often think of for 70s stank movies is Son of the Blob.
Mission complete. The captive has been escorted to the extraction point. Well done.
Where it's just sort of like, it just doesn't look or sound good, basically. That's what I'm getting at. And I'm not a snob for quality. It's like, oh, I must have 5,000 FPS, 800K resolution. I'm not vapid, so I'm not a snob about that. It's more like, in general, it does not look good or sound good. I couldn't tell you why that is, as I am not a film historian. But also, like, writing at the time was also just not good.
Stay focused. There's a heavy unit approaching. Great work. I am pleased with your performance.
I think one of the things that make Alien stand out, like it doesn't age at all, is that it doesn't really have, like, social issues of the time on the forefront, in a way. Motel Hell does, though. Where, and it's present in other movies of the 70s,
We received intel that
where
enemy
victims are often, like, drugged up hippies. Because, you know, that was a social issue of the time. People didn't like the vagrants, the hippies, etc., etc.
them quickly before they escape.
Alien doesn't have that, of course,
Excellent work. We'll interrogate
because in the modern age, people aren't going to be like, oh yeah, screw the hippies, because hippies aren't that much around anymore. Those people are all old. I mean, they still exist. They're just old. And downstairs neighbor is a hippie.
Subject found. Mother and clone rods. Initiating reclamation.
But, yeah, also, like, doing weed, the devil's lettuce, and that's what makes them deserve to be killed in the movies. Oh, I decided to do an exterminate mission all of a sudden. You know what? Screw this. Motel Hell is also a little bit cartoonish at times.
Find our target and bring them to the extraction point. Happy hunting.
Like, the film isn't supposed to be like super serious, dark, scary horror.
We found a target. Capture
But
quickly before
is more... I don't really know how to explain it. It's like...
Success. The captive is safely in our hands. Congratulations, Tenno.
macabre humor, I guess you could say. With a horror setting and plotline.
Subject found. In remain.
Marines inbound.
Yeah, I do recommend it. It is a good movie.
Great work. I am pleased with your performance.
And the HEMA is done.
You are here on a capture mission. You must find, capture, and extract our target. You found a target. Capture them quickly before they escape. Excellent work. We'll interrogate.
Now, if we want to talk about the worst ages for horror, I mentioned the 70s is probably the worst of the worst. Not only because of the quality, but the writing as well is generally not the best during that era.
Subject found. Significant trauma. Removing the galleon to assess
And like I said, I
viability.
can't recall very many 70s horror movies. I could probably take like a look.
You are surrounded by Grenier Marine.
There we go!
We have the chosen subject. They will become leech or die.
Stay focused. There's a heavy unit approaching. Another job well executed.
The next worst one. Probably the 90s. Because everything in the 90s was getting real campy.
Oh, little meat. Tiny serpent with your tiny poison. Did you really think you could kill a big, mean dragon like me?
Yes. It's another neat looking one.
I forgive you for what you did.
But I'm not going to show mercy. I will be killing this one. No. You know what? Public. Why not? Close that.
Stay focused. There's a heavy unit approaching. The enemy is broken. Well done. Now get to extraction.
I have been pinged.
Oh, little meat. So kind. I shall buy something lovely with this. A germ weapon, perhaps.
Going to take a little bio break, by the way. Let me... I know something I can put on.
I have done my
Anyways.
Elden Ring homework. And today, we're gonna take a seat back. We're gonna chill. We're gonna analyze, visualize, slow down, and appreciate all of the craziest attacks from the game's biggest, baddest, jankest, craziest enemies in the base game. No DLC spoilers. If you've played the game and have no clue what you're supposed to be dodging, take damage and have no idea how, or can't tell what the boss is doing because the camera is right up where the sun don't shine, this video is for you. This is Elden Ring like you've never seen before. Let's do it. We'll start off with a nice appetizer of jank. We all know the old foreskin apostle, but have you ever noticed this on his big rotating attack? Did you catch it? Watch it here. Now obviously, this must be from an early build of the game, or this animation software I'm using is bugged. Surely there is no way that this is actually in the game in 2024.
Oh my goodness!
For one frame, an incorrect bone value is set on a bone rotation, and it has never been noticed. The hitbox does come with it, so who knows, maybe someone somewhere has gotten clipped during a jumping attack. If that person was you, you may be entitled to financial compensation. Beyond that, this guy has one of the weirdest little disconnected hitboxes on this sword pullback attack specifically. Why is it a tiny little ball? Why is it not at the end of the sword at least? Why is it so cute? I don't have all the answers. I'm sorry. All right. Next up is a fan favorite, Star Scourge Radahn. Most people know you can run to the side to avoid his arrows, but how close are you to being hit? Very close. His attacks are some of the most fun to watch as he just carpet bombs the whole landscape in front of you, making the US military jealous. It's kind of funny how the hitboxes and their corresponding arrows spawn separately, and then you wonder if they're gonna find each other before it's too late, and then they always do. I'm sorry, it gets me every time. His arrow shotgun, also pretty fun. I always find it interesting why they place hitboxes for projectiles where they do. Like here they are at the tip, but later in the video with bosses like Margit, they are nowhere close. Gotcha. Pussy. No, I'm just kidding. But once you do get close to him, there is something weird about his sword hitboxes. The sword is way outside the hitbox. It's so curved that it looks ridiculous and is barely even functional. You put that in my medical records, Dr. Jennings. What the hell? Anyway, you could absolutely be getting hit physically by this sword and not actually be taking damage. And before you say, oh, it's a curved sword, it can't be perfect, what about this guy? I don't know. Apparently the intern was working on Radahn's sword that day, I guess. And yes, it's also wiggity whack on his second phase sword as well. But what's weirder than that is this. So according to the lore, Radahn is moving the horse with him with gravity magic. Is that really where you want to put the horse there, General? What's going on with that hoof? Huh? Explain this, Vatia. What does the lore say about this? Anyway, here's what everyone came to see. He's a literal comet descending from the sky, but still swings the sword. What a tryhard. Royal Revenant. This may be the most hated enemy in Elden Ring, and for one specific reason. Because of this move in particular. This controller breaking attack runs for a continuous 59 frames of twisting, whirling death. And I don't think those random spinning arms and torso are on purpose. There is so much lightning speed movement going on in this attack, it must have been a nightmare to animate. You can even see it happening in-game. But what's really scary is how oppressive this enemy is. Watch these 3 attacks in sequence. You have a jump attack, into a lunge attack, then straight into the 59 frame psycho mauling attack. To make things more interesting, its poison spit attack has some nasty range, coating a massive area. But luckily, the poison effect hitbox disappears a little before the actual poisonous gas, just in time for you to get mauled to death again, baby. Okay, but it's not all bad for you. The hitboxes on this enemy are actually pretty merciful, many not even extending past the model. Can you imagine if this thing was this aggressive and had crazy range? Ugh. No. And you'll notice this enemy has a hard time sticking to the player. This enemy would be the actual final boss if it had the hitbox range of other bosses and enemies in the game and use the boost root motion function that Melania does, but we'll get to her insanity later. Also, if you're liking the video, consider subscribing, and a like, comment goes a long way for a small
I'm
channel.
back.
Okay, I'm sorry. Back to the video. Next up in our list of goofy goobers is the intergalactic anal bead himself, Estelle. His projectile attack, although very intimidating visually, is actually a relatively small ball. It's actually shocking that anyone manages to even get hit by this. Oh, Jesus. Okay, I get it. It's a hard game. But despite how massive his arena is, it's funny to watch all the adjustments that are made to allow for this massive tail to be used at range. Hard to notice this stuff when you're just a little guy staring up at a massive boss. But believe it or not, when in doubt, you can kind of just stand there, living your best life, unbothered. The better you get at fighting a boss, the less effort you put into avoiding attacks. Well, maybe not exactly just stand there the whole time, you get what I mean. A couple interesting things I noticed in this attack explosion is that it doesn't follow in a sweeping line like you'd think it would. It starts on one side and then starts on the other side and then meets in the middle. So I guess go through a little off center if you want to run through. Also, his grab attack is super merciful. It barely has any active frames, starting only once the jaws are almost entirely closed, and it doesn't really have that much range. So if you find yourself in here, you got yourself to blame there, champ. A good chunk of his attacks are actually fairly well telegraphed, I think. Like this little snake rattle thing for his tail stab. I think the beef for this boss in particular comes because of how annoying he is to hit as a melee player, which I get it. But all right, now let's finish this guy with the attack that everybody wants to see. Despite whether you love or hate this boss, we can all agree he looks cool as shit. Ulcerated Tree Spirit. This thing has its name because I get an ulcer just by looking at it. Kids, you really shouldn't hate, but oh my god, what is this thing? There is just so much excess movement. It feels like anything could happen at any time, so your best bet is just to spam attacks and rolls and hope for the best. Like for this attack, it looks like it's coming down for a bite, but then the hands come flying over while the head is just twisting back like an exorcism. Or this one. Look at how much excess movement there is just for a spinning tail attack. And of course, there's plenty of whoopsie whirly dirlies on this bad boy too. And I know people are wanting like a revelatory breakdown on this enemy that just makes it make sense. But I honestly don't have anything else to show you for this. It really is just a bunch of bizarre squirming and then a random appendage is chosen to damage you. You aren't crazy. This guy, doo-doo ass, big time. Moving on. Margit. Margit is particularly interesting to me because he shows the changes FromSoft has made over almost 2 decades since Dark Souls. I did a video detailing the 4 jankest enemies in Dark Souls, which you can find on this channel. But a big point of discussion was slam attacks lasting a long time after hitting the ground. But you'll notice Margit's slam attacks disappear as soon as it hits the ground, even though debris is still flying. Also, his dagger attack includes a hitbox surrounding his shoulder. Why? Well, because if you don't, players can just push into the boss and be in a safe zone, like Quelaag still to this day. But honestly, Margit's sword hitbox is actually ginormous at times. This is how big I tell her it is. This is how big it actually is. You know what I mean, boys? Come on. But his golden arrows give you some time to roll late, I guess, because the hitbox is nowhere near the point. Moog. Alright, so he's got his usual throwing blood attack, but you'll notice sometimes the hitbox doesn't exactly line up with the fire on the ground. you'd be tempted to just walk between flames, but probably best to just roll through it to play it safe, because it's not exactly what you're seeing visually. His claw attack also comes out differently than I thought. This attack got me so many times because if you roll when he does the scratch, chances are you're gonna get caught once the real hitbox happens, the explosion. Also, a lot of people know you can kind of hit him in the back while this attack goes off. I always thought it was because the hitbox was some kind of semicircle, but no, it's just because he pulls it down in front of him, making it so you can sneak in a hit behind if you have a long enough weapon. Oh, and I didn't notice in the last shot, but that little orb of death floating towards you is kind of adorable. Anyway, look how stupid we looked when we first tried to roll through his, mid-fight nihil attack. How are you gonna roll through a hitbox when you are the hitbox? I thought it was gonna come from the boss and just be unavoidable due to its size and frame time, but no, it just sticks to you like glue. Speaking of glue, he really does fling his gooey flames everywhere in Phase 2, and I mean everywhere. A lot of people had questions about his running stab, which is nutty in Phase 2. A solid 18 frames, including his charging shoulder and his entire weapon. Throw in some goop and you've got yourself some real aim. And notice he can do it when he's right on you. It's not always a mid to long range option. And of course, there's a variation with an explosion at the end. It wouldn't be Elden Ring if there wasn't just explosions happening. So good luck. I just panic roll to the side too, and sometimes it works. Dragon Lord Placidusax. Oh, you wanted hitboxes? Here's your hitboxes. Now, this is the perspective any sane human fights this boss from. Smacking the tail from behind, avoiding every attack you can from the front. So it's interesting to see what is actually happening up front. Death. A lot of death is happening up front. Some of which can make it to the back. Some of his attacks do have a hard time sticking to the Model 2 though. This one in particular. And you'll notice the hitboxes for these claw attacks are significantly ahead of the actual claws. So roll early on this one. Also, I'm very proud of this shot. It's pretty freaking cool. You can see the hitbox of the explosion, but the roll is happening through the explosion, so he doesn't take damage. It's just cool. I thought you guys would like it. It's okay if you don't. I can't imagine the frustration of this dragon blasting out insane lightning attacks, some covering a football field, and then the tiny little rat man that he's trying to squash presses B at the right moment, and he's like, damn it, he rolled! As frustrating and bullshit as bosses can be in this game, remember, you are the cheapest, jankest thing in this entire game. But I will say it must be nice to be so massive that you don't even have to aim your swing and you still hit the target. All right, to finish this one, here's that insane laser death attack.
Oh, little meat. So kind. I shall buy something lovely with this. A germ weapon, perhaps.
Radagon and Elden Beast. The main interesting thing about
Have a
Radagon
good
is the
night.
fact that he has a kind of bizarre parry possibility. This flying attack right here, he can be parried. I have no clue if anyone ever has parried him on this move or how you'd even get that to go off, technically, yeah, he can be parried when he's in the air, flying at you. Also, his grab attack is not messing around. Boy has some range on them fingertips. But that's about it for him. But Elden Beast, however, has a lot of interesting stuff. First off, is anyone else really off-put seeing that he has legs? I do not like it. He can swim and fly. Why does he need legs, Miyazaki? Oh, no, I see why. What also finally makes sense to me is that in the beginning of that fight, you can just smack him a ton, and even though the flames are definitely hitting you, you just don't take damage. So the flames are extending way past where the actual last hitboxes are. So you are even safer than you think when you're close to him at the beginning of that fight. Same thing later in the fight, actually. Rolling isn't really all that necessary on the flames' edges. This boss in particular feels really intimidating the first fight, but he's actually really reasonable. Like, look how tiny these little hitboxes are. Oh, they're so teeny tiny. But it's a good thing that they're teeny tiny because it makes dodging this barrage manageable. They did not paint with broad strokes on this one. These little things have to exactly hit you for the attack to register. So it looks terrifying, but you just do this and you're good to go. But what they didn't get precise was this fan favorite attack. I really don't know what to tell you with this one. Thank God they have short range and dissipate, but man, this attack, it's one of the more annoying ones to deal with in this entire game. But this boss is like a toxic relationship. God, she hurts me so bad, and she reels me back in with stuff like this. I always loved this attack. It's all about the spectacle, and it knows it. The hitboxes are super forgiving, and it's just fun to run through the blast zone like an action movie. I also love that his body isn't just constantly a giant moving hitbox like other bosses in the game. This attack has his whole body and tail swinging around, but it's just about dodging the sword. I like it. The final funny quirk is the hitbox disappears on this swing for one frame. This one is clearly intentional. It allows the universe to give you a small bit of good luck karma. Your coworker farted, but you took the blame for it. You get home from work and you get lucky with this frame and you didn't get hit when you should have. It all comes back around, boys. Fire Giant. I just love watching this attack go off. It's like eye candy. Little orbs falling, creating little spawn points that then expand. It's just satisfying to watch. And for some reason, it's a little Christmassy. I don't know why. I'm not quite sure why the little spawn orbs fall at different speeds because they spawn at the same time from above. It makes it so the hitboxes spawn one after another in a line as opposed to all at once. Doesn't really make much difference because of how fast it happens, but it is more satisfying to watch. His roll through hitboxes are a little quirky too. He literally headbutts the player, but nothing happens until the hitbox appears later. I'm not complaining though, this boss does not need any more giant hitboxes. Speaking of giant hitboxes, the trigger range of the fireball expands as it's formed, so it won't just insta-explode if you're near its spawn point immediately. I've noticed that whenever I'm playing, that I'm just panic rolling as soon as that thing spawns, but you actually take your time and it just kind of expands. The rest of his fire attacks are super fun too. I can't think of any other fire hitboxes that raise into the sky like that in the game. Also, shout out to Gary, because he ate that shot to the face and basically every other shot in this entire video. Also, I've always wondered what happens to his shield in phase 2. Apparently it's still in his hand. They just make it intangible and invisible, but yeah, it's still there on the animations. The more you know. All right, before we tackle the final big one, Melania, here are 8 honorable mentions I found interesting. Fallen Star Beast's tail going back looks a little odd. Draconic Tree Sentinel. Almost every attack can be parried, even this jumping attack, and it looks completely insane. How this causes a giant man on a horse in gold armor swinging a dragon's great claw to stop in their tracks is just very funny to me. Must be in the wrist, I guess. Godric. Playing with hitboxes on in slow motion turns a lot of his attacks into like fun little mini games. Feels like you're in the Matrix. I definitely recommend getting some mods together and trying this out yourself. Rykard. The scale of this attack is insane. I mean, just look at the... Wait a minute. To be this beautiful in death, she must have been something else in life. I'm sorry, I didn't mean for this to happen again. Deathrite Bird. This may be the only instance of a hitbox specifically for a butt, which is an odd choice because this thing is really lacking in what it's packing. Also, I always thought that the arrow attack from the Deathrite Bird was arrows flying in the sky and then coming down, but apparently everything is a lie and they are just spawning above your head. Magma Worm. A lot of his charging attacks have his body as a hitbox, but not the sword that he's shoving around. I also have never seen this attack in-game, but it's badass. Rune Bear. For as notorious as this enemy is, the hitbox lengths themselves are actually really chill. It's really a matter of the size of the hitboxes and how liberally they are applied. He is just a torpedo of death half the time. Malekith. The generative hitboxes on his attacks just look really weird. Similar hitboxes just look like this. Malekith's attack causes a status effect to the player, but so do poison attacks, and we've seen them already not look like this. Only place I've found this kind of hitboxes is here, so I don't know. Malenia. All right, buckle up. This is the big one. Most of her fight is really nothing out of the norm of a usual aggressive swordy fight. Her sword has average hitboxes, nothing particularly challenging, and then what surprised me most about this is the swirling sword slashes don't always correlate to whether or not an AoE attack is happening, particularly in her second combo. They just kind of add the AoE hitbox periodically. It looks wild in game, but the event graph is actually even wilder. See all these attack events, one after the other? Remember, 13 frames of roll invincibility is what most players are working with when they go into this fight. The first set of attacks in this waterfowl dance is 34 frames long, making it literally impossible for you to successfully roll through it, followed by a smaller second phase of 11 frames, and then a final third phase of another 33 frames, not counting the little AoE attack at the end. So for veteran players, if you can't roll through it, the next try is to roll around it or roll away from it. Well, that's where this little beauty comes in, boost root motion. This allows her to essentially cheat her position and burst towards you faster than she would normally be able to. And you can see it's used liberally throughout the whole combo. So to recap, you have a single move from a boss that has the damage output to one-shot a player if they're caught in it. Its attack cadence doesn't allow time for a player to successfully use the roll mechanic to avoid damage, and also allows the boss to effectively stick to the player like glue as they unsuccessfully attempt to roll away or around their oncoming doom. So what the hell are you supposed to do?
You're right. I give up.
Well, the key to all this is abusing the boost root motion that she uses. Malenia can only turn at a certain maximum rate. And if she's boosting towards you, if you position yourself correctly, she'll simply overshoot. Like this. Shout out to Inner Estelle for the example because I have spent way too much time on this video already and I did not want to master dodging this attack for the video. I'm sorry. People can argue in the comments on whether this attack helps or hurts the experience of fighting Melania. Me personally, I could do without it. But at the end of the day, Elden Ring is a masterclass in game development and design, and the flaws are such small pebbles in just the mountain of the game's success. The next video is covering the Elden Ring DLC, so subscribe to see more. After that is Dark Souls 2, so let me know what else you want to see. Please leave a like and a comment. Really helps videos coming from small channels especially. I've also been making my 69-year-old dad play Dark Souls as his first video game ever on Saturdays. It's live, it's going terrible, it's a lot of fun. We've got a lot of Souls stuff on the channel, so check it out. But as always, thanks for watching.
Well, may as well play another.
To the side. Elden Ring's DLC, Shadow of the Erdtree, is filled with larger-than-life, lightning-fast bosses. So today, we're gonna slow down, analyze, and appreciate the frame data of some of the DLC's biggest, baddest, and craziest bosses and mini-bosses. Obviously, DLC spoilers. These are going to be ranked in order from how much I think the community struggled with each boss, from least to most, and you can let me know if you think I got it wrong. This is Shadow of the Erdtree like you've never seen it before. Let's do it. Furnace Golem. Right off the bat, the grab radius is about as big as you'd expect in the front where the fingers would close, but weirdly extends behind the actual hand, so you can roll through it entirely and then you get teleported back into its hand. Beyond that, his stomp attack, which I always thought you absolutely had to jump to avoid damage, but turns out you can barely roll through it, but it is much tighter. But speaking of jumping and how weird this game handles that, everyone's seen Zully the Witch explain jumping makes your lower body hit capsules invulnerable to damage, but your arms and head will still take damage if struck. Well, you can't tell me that you aren't covered head to toe in hitboxes in this. So why does jumping give you full invincibility all of a sudden, even when you are right next to the impact zone, engulfed in flames? Well, your lower half invincibility is really just half the story. There are some specific hitboxes, every single one of these, for example. They're each marked with an action flag that basically means you will not take damage if you're jumping, even if you are completely covered in hitboxes. I personally don't get how a little hop and a skip prevents this from happening, but it does. But you know when it doesn't? 2 seconds later, when he does a double leg jump instead of a stomp. For some reason, all of these cannot damage you while jumping, but all of these can. I don't know, it confused the hell out of me the first time I played, trying to figure out when jumping was safe, when it wasn't. I think at least being that close to the landing zone of the stomp, it'd probably not be jumpable, but maybe that's just me. But lastly, for this guy, I never realized his opening fire kick attack isn't just a wall of flames. It's actually dozens of flaming boulders, each with their own hit detection. So if you've got the balls to just walk through it without rolling at the end of your no-hit run, you're a gaming god. Romina, Saint of the Bud. Bug Girl has some really weird stuff going on. They really nailed her body hitboxes, following along her curving body, except for this particular part just sticking out like a sore thumb. It's never going to be perfect with a boss that has attacking appendages that warp this much. Like, you can see it's not perfect in this part of the animation, but it gets to where it needs to be when it matters. But the issue compounds because they seem to have used the exact same sockets for hitboxes on this move as the others. I mean, what is that? Just use a big sphere hit detection on the entire body. If this is your other option, just make it a big circle. What is this? Like, half the body is not even remotely covered. There's a giant extending hit capsule from its stinger, and then nothing until you get to the other side of it. This boss seems like one of the most just thrown in there encounters in the entire game. And yes, it's got one of those little spinneroonies, which I'll admit, those don't really affect anything. They're just fun, so keep them coming, thumbs up. To finish this one, here's the record for the most cutesy attack
They completely
Ubisoft
cut
has
her
ever made.
story out of the
No,
game.
all those are not hit detectors.
That's why she
They
seems to
are
just be
spawn
thrown
points
in.
for thousands of butterflies. Very demure, very mindful, very dangerous. The worthless brick of a machine we all had in our computer room growing up just shit its pants just thinking about running this game.
Additional fuel cells will be
Skadoo Tree Avatar. This skadoosh bag. Full disclaimer, this boss was my personal least favorite in the entire game. To start, it has one of the wildest discrepancies of model size to hit capsule in the game. Look at that little twig in there. Now, it does have some redeeming qualities, like a really cool destructible arena that I did not appreciate when I was in-game, and some pretty sick visuals on some other attacks, but that does not make up this one attack that made me want to throw a brick through my monitor.
Why is
Because
my
it
lich
does it.
not spawning?
Again and again, which apparently was not enough because eventually it does this. A ridiculous triple explosion combo that will absolutely annihilate your health if not handled well. And if you're wondering why I didn't edit out the footage that you're watching right now, it's because it did it again 15 seconds later. Now, the actual explosion is only 8 frames, which is no big deal. It's the fact that there's no visual indicator of when exactly that explosion is going to happen. Watch 0 animation changes as we approach the explosion on the event graph, which is this bullet behavior. Okay, now the explosion has happened and the model responds, but it's too late, you're dead. With this, and especially the triple explosion variant of it, it feels like you're playing a rhythm game, but you just can't see when the next move is coming down the screen, and so you just have to have a perfectly tuned internal clock to know when to do anything at the right moment. What's the point when the damn thing can just fucking explode at any moment? God, alright, moving on. But briefly, if you are enjoying the video, please subscribe so you can see more. Also, likes and comments go a long way for a small channel. But back to the video. Up next is Putrescent Knight. This guy is a bit of a two-timer. Let me show you why. He throws his boomerang sword at you. Pretty standard stuff. But when it comes back to his hand, it splits into 2. I expected one to disappear, and the other one continues on as the sword he uses, but then they came back together for some reason, just leaving me with even more questions. He also 2 times when it gets off the horse. You're supposed to think his horse is the one that comes out of the muck to attack you, but it's actually new horses being spawned each time, while the actual horse connected to the model just scooting boots along below. Oh, and the attack horses carry their hitboxes underneath the ground, so if you're goofing off with out-of-bounds glitches, you're never safe. But overall, his big phase 2 attack is fun to watch, but is actually pretty chill for what's coming later in the game. Golden Hippo. Unsoft games are weird because you may think bosses I struggled with were easy, but I personally had 0 issues with this Golden Hippo, even though everybody seems to bitch about it. The hit detection on this boss really isn't as bad as you would think. Nothing much larger than what you would expect it to be, and hit detection functions just as it should. Even its standard melee bite attack doesn't even cover its entire jaws, making some attacks just miss due to lack of range. You'll notice your character can literally be inside its mouth before finally registering a hit. The main complaints with this big lug has to do with the camera, for one, because you can slip into the boss and not realize what he's doing. In 1 second, you're in the thing's neck, totally fine, and then the next, the entire neck is a giant hit capsule. But besides that, all you can see online is gripes about this grab attack. You know the one. So this yellow hit detector is not the grab range. It's just a standard hit detector. The actual hit detector is surprisingly difficult to show visually, but I ran a bunch of tests to give you a perspective on where it actually is. Its farthest range is right about here. I tried so many ways to consistently avoid this grab.
Please, game.
Like
I just want
rolling
to
through,
kill my lich and get the
failed
soul back.
because its model's collision is
Free me from my
no
prison.
joke. So I tried rolling to the left, but you will notice something. Every time I roll left, it's able to twist and boost to my position, making it nearly impossible to escape. I could not find an answer to why whenever I rolled right, the damn thing didn't have enough juice to catch me, and it always worked. That or that side of the mouth doesn't have collision, allowing you to roll through as you see right here. So the answer is to roll right, but there is nothing I could find in the event graph, attack parameters, the model, or anything to indicate why that is. I am open to suggestions. Other sources of beef I saw were his projectile attacks, which just spawn and go flying everywhere, seemingly willy-nilly. Realistically, I didn't mind them. They don't do very much damage, and you can usually just haul ass away from them anyway. But that grab attack? That shit haunts my dreams. Midra, Lord of Frenzied Flame. Mr. Burns has never been more intimidating. What a deadly barrage of lethal attacks. Truly the final boss of the game. Well, never mind. Phase 2 of Midra is slightly more challenging than Phase 1. I personally love this boss because I felt like you took damage pretty fairly. A lot of Frenzied Flame attacks are more about building up frenzy than dealing damage, allowing a push and pull of that status bar, as opposed to everything banking on your ability to precisely dodge a near one-shot AoE attack. But where things get a little tricky is these little beauties. I know for a fact that you got hit over and over again by this shit. He puts 3 swings within a 56 frame window right after a 104 frame windup. He also can put 2 attacks within a 40 frame window after a whopping 126 frame windup. That mixed in with burst frenzy attacks and the occasional grandpa slice, then you have a tempo changing demon on your hands. I personally really liked learning this boss, but I could see how some people would want this done to their brain after fighting him. Divine Beast Dancing Lion. This thing humbles everyone at the start of the DLC. Not just because of its difficulty, but because you're actually getting kicked in the head by a theater kid. The boss is just 2 guys in 1 costume, and we all know from this who the second guy is. A little piece of lore in your frame data video. Who knew? But beyond that, this guy is just about what you would expect. A lot of his attacks are simply variations of other moves with a different damage type and special effects. But it is fun to chance it and try to just barely walk through his spinning attack. But overall, nothing much to really see here other than a well-built beauty. FromSoft's A-Team was on this one. Rolana has quite a few interesting quirks. The first of which being the safe zones right in front of her. On several of her one-arm swings, if you can position yourself right in front of her as close as possible, they will just miss. Her ranged ice special move also, in addition to being obviously pretty cool to watch in slow motion, but if you can run in on her when it starts, then it's the most useless attack in the game, and she has to go through the entire thing. She could have anticipated you coming in so close, but never could have anticipated you falling in love.
Game, please.
Parry timings. They're earlier than you think, and they're everywhere. In previous Souls games, I've seen advice saying to click parry when the attack hits you, but in Elden Ring, look how early the parry window is. See that little C on the event graph? The one that says, get parried. That one? That is when she can be parried. Nowhere near when the weapon is hitting you. In-game, it ends up looking like this. You can start your parry animation even when the sword is on the other side of her body. You can see where it registers on the swing right here. I think the reason for this seems to be how freakishly fast Elden Ring attacks are compared to previous Souls
What do you
games.
mean,
Parry
no?
animation is much slower than how fast boss attacks are in this game. So in order to time it out so that your animation does this when their weapon hits you, you have to parry earlier and earlier. For most cases, it seems you aren't timing your parry input with when the attack hits you. You're actually timing your parry animation to do this when the attack would be hitting you. So it
Welcome
starts
back,
early.
Trev.
That's what I did, and I literally became Parry the Platypus. Also, look how many opportunities you have to parry on a long combo like this. Parry, 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 6 times in one combo. So as a good old swordy boss, she is everything you're looking for. And then this stuff starts coming out.
Oh my goodness!
That is a beefy hit capsule. Her phase 2 introduces some very cool and very powerful special moves that are a lot of fun to watch.
Set the injector into overdrive to incinerate the toxin.
Her 2 Moon Slam, though, in particular, is notorious, but actually gets completely trivialized if you know to jump instead of roll. You'll see on this attempt, I roll at a reasonable time, but still get easily clipped. Then this jump attempt is smooth sailing on all 3 of them. This is because this attack also does not affect you when you are in a jumping animation, an animation that is much longer than the 13 invincibility frames of a roll. So rolling through it is possible, but jumping through it is a breeze. Mesmer. Mesmer's flame attacks are the real MVP in this fight, even massively extending the range of his weapon. Also, I'm guessing this large circle hitbox around his shoulder was to prevent the same thing happening to him that you can do to Rolana. Also, I think it's a nice touch that hit detectors on his flame projectiles expand as they go like a growing flame. Just watch out for his grab attack. But obviously, the big phase 1 challenge is this bad boy. This one is a challenge because it makes use of the boost root motion and twist modifier functions, so you can't roll back or to the side. So similar to Melania's waterfowl dance, a well-timed roll
into it.
under should trivialize the entire move. Now, once he gets to phase 2, there are a couple quirks to it that I never realized. The first being that the snake has eyes all over its body, including in its mouth, which brings a whole new meaning to watching what you eat. But more disturbing than that is how far ahead of the model the hit capsule is on its bite attacks. It's perfectly normal for a hit detector to be larger than the weapon for a practical purpose, but this seems kind of unnecessary. Overall, I really liked fighting Mesmer, and eventually you kind of just get used to the timings of an attack, even if they're not exactly within the fractions of a second that would be technically accurate. Meteor, Mother of Fingers. Last video, some people said, lay off all the jokes.
Nope.
But how am I supposed to do that when it looks like it does? I simply don't have the mental fortitude to not make jokes. So buckle up. I promise it'll be quick. For the basic melee attacks, this thing is like every guy that gets a Magnum condom. Its misshapen chode of a finger doesn't even fit in the capsule's height, but at the same time is too short for its length. Also, when I bought the DLC, I did not expect to get absolutely finger blasted, but here we are, boys and girls. And lastly, this move is just a rendering of what happens in my shorts when I dunk on you fools. But alright, I got it out of my system. Back to frame data. There are hefty hit detectors on her body that caught me off guard over and over because I was more concerned about her finger weapon. Her body hitbox is often the sneaky threat, like in this attack. She throws particles around as she jumps like a distraction before she drops like a rock on your head. And she's a big old girl at that. But for someone called the Mother of Fingers, the actual normal finger attacks are pretty chill. And despite the sheer scale of this attack, it is super easy to dodge. But still very satisfying to see from a bird's eye view. Someone who knows more about lore can tell us what the symbol means. Probably something to do with fingers. Now, when phase 2 rolls around, things get a little out of hand, no pun intended. The 2 main attacks I see concerns over are first this spinning attack. It is a real bitch at first, and it obviously can't be parried, but with certain fingers not having hit detection, it can be skadooshed.
I need to sabotage this ship's reactor.
But it's a frame-perfect input, so instead, putting yourself directly under and rolling through it is your best bet at running into as few hit detections as possible, or just shield it like a big beefy boy. But eventually, she whips out the big guns, which we will appreciate from a safe distance. And then I'll show you what I've learned up close. Honestly, I would not suggest even attempting to dodge through the mega lasers. I tried several times and failed miserably every single time, and the laser is not a bullet spawn, it's actually a continuous hitbox, so you will not get lucky. Instead, running to and back from the outer edge of the central AoE attack allows you to thread the needle to avoid the laser altogether. That's a key point with this boss entirely. Just straight up running or shielding through certain attacks is a better call than rolling. Commander Gaius, or Gaius, or Gaius, I don't know. At any rate, let's start with the simple stuff and then we'll build up. His stomp attack is deceptive because you're thinking about the tusks, but instead, time your dodge to when the feet hit, and you're gonna dodge both. Also, what's weird is I expected there to be a hit detector on this tusk upswing, but nah, you good. Also, the little gravity orb he sends in phase 2 doesn't have any hit detection on it. Still don't stand in it, but also don't worry about touching it. Now, eventually he will whip this move out, which is objectively a massive flex, but it has to be one of the sharpest boost root motion values I have ever seen. This is the attack at 10% speed, and watch the speed change when that second boost root motion is called. This is what it looks like in game. The thing absolutely dive bombs at you. It'll catch you off guard if you don't know that it speeds up like that. And now for the cherry on top, the charge attack. I'm gonna try to explain why it feels inconsistent sometimes. Buckle up, because this gets technical, but I think I've got it. So initially, I tested side rolls. Both left and right failed for the same reasons they fail on other charge attack enemies. They can simply out-twist you. So side rolls aren't going to cut it, so rolling straight through it is. Now, ignoring the immersion breaking aspect of phasing your entire body through a charging bore, watch these two roll attempts and try and see if you can catch why the first roll fails and the second succeeds. Did you catch it? I'll go over it. So the jankiness of this attack lies in this tailing hit capsule. What's bizarre is that these hit detectors are being spawned, rooted in place, and then despawning after 2 frames. They are not connected to any kind of socket on the boss and are not traveling with him. The problem with that is in 1 frame, this is the total distance your roll needs to clear. And then in the next frame, the tailing capsule despawns, and now it's only this distance your roll needs to clear. So sometimes it seems like not getting clipped at the end seems to depend on the RNG of whether that tailing hit detector despawns when you get to it or not. Why they didn't just attach a hit capsule to the bore itself as it charges is a mystery to me. You could just get good and nail the roll with optimal timing every time. But just from a design standpoint, am I taking crazy pills? Why would you do it like this? If you have ideas or I'm totally wrong on something and I'm missing it, I would love to hear it. Christian Bale, the Dread. Honestly, his body transformations for roles has peaked here. 5 bags of popcorn. But alright, Oscar picks aside, this boss has very little wonkiness, but a lot of the craziest AoE attacks in the game. The oddest thing about him though is this tail sweep. It starts out way outside the capsule, and I thought it was gonna even out as the animation proceeded, but not so much. His bite attack also is at least well telegraphed, and even though it is a big old trigger area, it's really only 12 frames, and half those frames is him closing the distance to you, so you can see you can roll pretty far away and still end up totally fine. Beyond that, his phase 1 is what you would expect for a couple fire attacks that look really intimidating for those who don't know what is coming. Phase 2 is absolutely bonkers. almost all of his attacks have residual explosions, like these, and these, and good lord, these.
Your target is this location's computer system. Find and access the terminals.
And of course, it wouldn't be Elden Ring without an insanely cool-ass attack that inevitably finishes in a fiery explosion rivaled only by a Taco Bell bathroom. Lastly, remember when we thought Halo 3 was peak gaming graphics, and now sit back and enjoy this.
Security. Watch out for enemy patrols.
Why do people have such reactions to Taco Bell? I don't get it.
Oh, one funny thing before we move on here. After all that, they put a little hitbox on his 1 foot when he lands. I'm sorry if you successfully dodged all the flames just to get toe-tapped and killed. That sucks. And now for what I expected to be one of the biggest challenges for most gamers, Consort Radahn. In true final boss fashion, he has some decent-sized hit capsules on his swords, making him a real challenge to just run away from. He'll almost always tag a run away with these big boys. His gravity pull attack is also entirely unavoidable without a well-timed roll. But what I do love is even if you get pulled in, the slam attack grows out from the impact zone. This means if you get pulled in, you can simply run or roll away, making it a bit more dynamic of a move than just an explosion. Another favorite of mine is this spinning meteor smash. It just has the gravitas you want without being overbearing, and even as Consort Radahn, he is still a tryhard and swings his sword at the end of a massive meteor smash. Oh, and then also a little optimization I learned from beating pre-nerf Consort Radahn. Yes, you heard me, pre-nerf. It was ridiculous. But this bloody slash looks more intimidating than it actually is, especially in Phase 1, where it has an actually very small explosion. It gets bigger in Phase 2, but you'll notice either way, you can sneak around the back and get a hit in. I had a ton of fun learning Phase 1 Consort Radahn, and then Phase 2 happened. When I saw this attack, I thought I was playing a parody of Elden Ring. The final boss just T-posed and fucking exploded. If this isn't just a deep, self-aware troll from Elden Ring, I don't know what is. The fight is a non-stop barrage of hit capsules cascading out from every attack from Phase 1. For this attack in particular, his two-hand slash only lasts 3 frames, while the aftershock and echoes of it last for 26. The game has some mercy, though, in that the phantoms that precede certain attacks actually have a smaller hitbox than the final swing. And there is a case to be made that they move the hitbox behind the weapon as a way to allow you to roll later, because this isn't even remotely close to the model. They did that specifically on this outrageous combo. For me, I always get caught by that final explosion, and here's why. He quickly jerks up, which causes most players to immediately roll, thinking the explosion is happening. But he struggles for 13 frames to get the swords out of the ground. Your roll lasts for 13 frames, so if you get tricked by that initial yank up, you're going to get nailed by the actual explosion once he does pull the sword out. Tricky bastards. Also, attacks like this seem terrifying until you realize he has no hit detection or collision at the start, and you can just walk into him and avoid all this entirely. Regardless, the big guy is inescapable, as hit detection is sometimes so big it's outside the arena. I couldn't even capture this all in one shot. And now, for the grand finale of the game. And this entire video, yes. Up he goes into the heavens, way, way, way up there. And then he just disappears. And then Merry Christmas, a star is born. There he is, watching over us. He has come to spread love and joy to all the world. The Holy Book of Radon reads, "Good luck dodging this, you stupid little man." And if you manage to survive everything in this video, you have ascended past Elden Lord and have earned the exalted title of Gamer. Starting next year, I'm working on Dark Souls 2, but if you liked the video, remember to like, comment, and subscribe so you can see more. But as always, thanks for watching.
Alright. Dark Souls 3,
Dark
because
Souls
this
3
is taking a
has
lot
some of
longer
the
than I was
greatest
expecting.
bosses in gaming. Jaw-dropping
I don't really
spectacle,
have anything else to do
incredibly
today.
detailed and thought-out engagements. But at the same time, what is going on with this game, bro? I've found stuff that has completely blown my mind. Like, the boss's arm ends here, so what is this hit capsule doing all the way out here? And why are the flames here, but their hit detectors aren't even touching them? And don't worry, we will get into whatever the hell this is with the Soul of Cinder. This video is part 1 of a 2-part series where we appreciate and commiserate over the most interesting and jankest hitboxes and frame data of every major boss in the game. This is Dark Souls 3 like you've never seen it before. Let's run it. The 10 bosses covered in this video are ranked by how difficult I think that they were. This is all objective fact, and I will argue with you in the comments. First up, High Lord Walner. Much like your actual grandpa, Grandpa Walner's body is significantly grosser than you ever imagined. But the main question people have is how close can you get to Gramps without it starting to smell like farts? He's like a big slug, leaving behind a trail of death, but you can actually go into the fog a bit before connecting with the damage hit detector. Directly in front of him is actually not as dangerous as you would think. For his Smoker's Lung AoE attack, you can actually just hang out to the side between his body and where the smoke is expanding. Totally safe. A lot of his attacks are actually pretty unintimidating. His 2-arm slam attack doesn't actually have any detection on the fist itself, and his animation where he summons skeletons to fight for him looks like it would have the ability to damage you, but it's just for show. Some of his attacks are even active for as little as only 2 seconds and include just a small portion of the overall movement. He does have a few surprises though, like this bitch slap attack, where it's animated like he just got his nails done and doesn't want to break them. Okay, Queen. Or the fun fact that his sword never actually leaves his hand. It gets duplicated to get used as a projectile, while the sword on his model just gets hidden from the player. All in all, I think my actual grandpa would put up a better fight than this guy, leaving him as the easiest boss in the game. Yorm the Giant. This is kind of a gimmick boss where you have to use a certain weapon to do any meaningful damage to him. But there is one thing about him that drives me absolutely insane. And I'm open to suggestions as to why they did this. Some of this dude's attacks look totally normal. As they swing, then a larger hit capsule is triggered to create an AoE explosion. Everything's fine, nothing to get upset about. But then there are these kind of attacks. We're swinging along, all is well, and then why did that just triple in size? Sometimes it looks like it's meant to be a late AoE of smashing into the ground, but it also does it on upswings for absolutely no reason at all. I'm pretty sure they just set it to happen on all swings at a fixed timing, regardless of the attack or whether it collided with the ground or not. So basically, if you roll with his weapon, be prepared for it to triple in size out of nowhere. Also, I was kind of bummed to see no hit detection on the crumbling pillars. You can let me know what you think, but it could have made the fight more dynamic and the giant more imposing if destroying his arena was an actual threat to you. In his phase 2, he even has these massive flame effects on his swings, which don't actually add any danger, not like the massive hitbox at the end for no goddamn reason. It's never gonna make any sense to me. Moving on, Vort of the Boreal Valley. This boss fight is basically that Tyson versus Jake Paul fight. You expected an epic slugfest, but now that it's in the past, the only thing you remember is how focused the entire thing was on the big guy's ass. Everyone knows you fight this boss staring right at his big old booty cheeks. All of his attacks are focused on the front side, and his phase 1 doesn't include a body hitbox on his swings. Even in phase 2, when it adds a body hitbox, it still leaves his backside as an open target, branding him as an overall easy boss. Piling onto that, he literally has multiple attacks that are active for just a single frame. Even one where the weapon hits the ground first, then a single frame hitbox fires. Most attacks that look like they have an AoE actually don't. There's no shoulder check hitbox on him, so you have some mercy between his body and weapon. And sometimes attacks can be avoided by, well, just standing there. But the biggest goofball thing he has is his second phase transition has one of the silliest timed hit detectors I've ever seen. He brings up the weapon and slams it down, but by the time he brings it down, it's no longer active. But at least he has a little bit of an intimidating factor with a massive area of effect with his frostbite breath, and the frost effect expands way beyond the actual freezing beam. Ayudex Gunder, the beloved perfect prince of introductory bosses. But that's not to say there isn't some weird stuff going on with him. Number one, and this is probably just me, but why is his shoulder check horizontal? I don't like it. Make it vertical, like the rest of his body. But in testing, probably the gameplay just felt better with it that way, but whatever. But I do appreciate the effort put into his weapon hit detection. It flows with the size of the weapon instead of just making the entire thing a big tube. But if the weapon can't hit you, it doesn't really matter, because on some attacks, his max rotation speed is set just a touch too slow to catch you strafing on his right side. Get walked on, you big dumb idiot! I died to this guy a lot learning Dark Souls 3. Can you tell? Anyway, here's what it looks like when he punched you in the face too. As for parrying, he actually has a 2-frame timing, which is not the standard in later games, which only have 1 frame. Don't think about parrying when the weapon hits you, think about parrying when his wrist hits you. But that's basically it for phase 1, but then phase 2 happens and he goes, I believe the lore calls it, goblin mode? And good lord, does he have hitboxes for days. His weapon gets a massive upgrade in size. His parry frames drop down to 1 frame instead of 2. And for some moves, his entire body is a wall of pain. I never realized, because I'm usually just panic rolling at this point, but most of these attacks have his weapon and the monster attacking together. His claw hitbox reminds me of Dragon Lord Placidusax from Elden Ring, but here the hitboxes are placed well, as opposed to well in front of the claws. I have a bunch of videos covering Elden Ring, Dark Souls, other games, so check out the channel if you haven't seen those, and remember to subscribe so that you can be sure to see part 2 of this series. But anyway, in all FromSoft games, they seem to struggle to keep tail hitboxes consistent throughout the attack. This one in particular gets a little ridiculous by the end. And lastly, anyone that plays these games is familiar with the teleporting grab attacks. If so much as a toe hits the grab, you get teleported into it. Gamers love it. Nobody's ever complained about it. Don't change a thing, FromSoft. But at least Gunder's Grab is one of the smallest I have ever seen. Compare that to some of the newest bosses in Souls games. They had mercy on us back in the day. Curse Rotted Great Wood. Holy hell, this thing has its Woodussy out and everything. God damn. This boss is gross, dude. Why does it have to jiggle when you hit it? This thing has gross poison fruit that drops from its branches, just falling down, releases juices, I guess, which oddly appear, fade away, then fade back in for some reason. Such a weird texture choice and animation to me. But it is one of the first bosses in the game that features AoE on its smash attacks. Although the appearance and visual effects of the AoE are way bigger than the actual threat itself. Look at those flowers going crazy in that huge dust cloud. But as your date with the biggest catfish in gaming history continues, she takes you somewhere you can be more private. Lucky you. It's a big boss, so it does big boss things down here. Like its crawling attack, where the foot is a hitbox at the start, then stops, then the foot on the other side isn't a hitbox at all for the same motion until, oh, now it is, okay. And then ending with an absolutely ginormous hit detector for its thin little arm. That's big bosses for you. Complete with a hefty grab detector. And el clásico teletransportarse nos encanta verlo. But if you think I'm being dramatic, let me show you one last thing. What you are looking at is insane to me. The arm ends here. What is this hitbox here for other than a big middle finger to me, personally? Because yes, it is active and it does damage you. I am starting a class action lawsuit for pain and suffering on this one. What? I was so mad when I saw this. Oh my God. Crystal Sage. As head chairman of the Gamers Against Magic Closed Council, I find this entire boss offensive. Spamming magic attacks from a distance and then immediately running away. Forget respect for others. Respect your damn self, coward. Do you think doing magic is cool? It looks cool, yeah. And am I going to exploit the fact that people love watching slow motion lasers and yellow wireframe circles appear in perfect synchrony for views? Obviously, yes. But I will offer two interesting facts. Like, one, the crystals that appear in this phase 2 don't serve any other purpose other than guiding you to where the real crystal sage is about to spawn. They don't damage you even when they spawn. Number 2, the Crystal Sage has the craziest parry window I have seen in any FromSoft game. It is 5 frames long, 5 times longer than the norm. You cannot miss it. Old Demon King. To start off, his fried chicken leg weapon hardly has any AoE at all. There are actual fire explosions that happen, and flames trailing behind his swings, but no actual AoE hit detection is present. Even attacks that do have an AoE are really not all that intimidating. They don't last long and are a fraction of the size that they appear to be. It's not until he reaches phase 2 that his attacks have any real threat. Everything starts out in tight formation, but gets a little loosey-goosey at the end. For this attack, start running back first because you are much more likely to get lucky as the hit detectors spread. Same thing with other flame attacks, which I think is kind of an interesting way to handle avoiding an area of effect attack. It's much more about positioning in this fight. Kind of reminds me of the way Dark Souls 2 handled a lot of their boss fights. And finally, here's something weird about Dark Souls 3 and older games in general. Look at this attack and where the hit detectors are located relative to the flame. You see how they're trailing well behind the flames themselves? But then when you watch it here, they are right on target. So to slow down a game like I have been, you have to lower the frame rate. It gets complicated, but essentially in Dark Souls 3, some hitbox calculations are tied to frame rate, which is a problem because people with slower PCs that take longer to render a frame will experience hitboxes in different places than someone with a PC that can keep up. It's not the biggest of deals, but I just think it's kind of funny. This probably could be fixed with what's called delta time, or by having hit calculations calculate distance rather than just, speed and duration. But long story short, you now have more stuff that you can use to gaslight yourself into believing it's not your fault that you suck at this game. You're welcome. Abyss Watchers. So remember when I said to parry when the wrist hits you for Gunder? Well, with the Abyss Watchers, generally yes, do the same thing, but there is some weird exceptions. You would think the parry would start here for this attack, but that's the last possible moment. It actually starts way back here. Also, this phase 2 attack is surprisingly parryable as well. There isn't really a swing attack. He's just scraping fire on the ground, so when would you guess that the parry is? Right at the very beginning, just as he starts running. Just kind of odd. But what's really bizarre is where they placed the fire hit detectors in his phase 2. I got hit by flames constantly in this fight. The hit detectors aren't even touching where the flames appear visually. You space your roll through the flames, but in reality, you rolled right into them. I'd love to hear people's opinions on why they would choose to do it like this, because this is some of the strangest intentional placement of hit detection that I've seen in any FromSoft game. To make things stranger, certain attacks have the exact same visual cues, but don't have any flame detection at all. And to add insult to injury, this boss stole my wife's signature move. Just lying there is a Babe 2 trademark. Lawyer up, assholes. The babes are coming for you. She's gonna kill me for that one. Pontiff Sullivan. People think this boss is difficult, but honestly, just get your parry timings down, guys. I personally just use cheats to perfect parry. It's really not that hard to get good. But I guess if you don't have Cheat Engine installed, just know that you can only parry his flame sword. At least that's what everyone on Reddit seems to think. But guess what? For some damn reason, you can parry his dark sword only on this backswing attack. Why? I have no idea. But overall, he is a straightforward swordy boss where even his flame attacks don't include any additional hit detections for the fire. But seriously, watch out for the giant hitboxes attached to his small dark sword. There is zero chance of strafing this boss with the sheer size of shoulder and arm hit detection attached to him. Like, his arm hitbox is twice the width of the actual weapon. It's nuts. And his grab detection includes those arms and shoulders, by the way. He also has one projectile attack, which interestingly despawns the hit detector, but not the visual projectile when it makes contact with a target, which I actually haven't really seen in any other projectile. So using your friend as a summon shield is technically viable. And finally, for his biggest AoE smash, he is driving the big sword into the ground, but the little sword is active for some reason. But we're all just here to see Big Flame go boom, so here you go. And finally, to end part 1 with a fan favorite and undoubtedly the hardest we've covered today, Soul of Cinder. Holy crap, this dude is weird as hell. So I think they added bizarre hitboxes to his swings because the ground you fight on is uneven. Because of that, they added these. Is that a hitbox in your pants, or are you just happy to see me? These are all like shoulder check hitboxes on steroids. You can see in some of these that the character takes damage first from these weirdo added hit detectors before the sword itself. My thing is, if you're going to have an uneven ground to create a unique combat arena, why create random ass hit detectors to negate the unique combat in the first place? Throughout each of his phases, there's fun stuff that I found. Like in his opening attack of his spear phase, they forgot to change the hitbox from his sword phase, resulting in an extremely rare occurrence of a hitbox being significantly shorter than a weapon instead of longer. Also, his magic sword is way bigger than I ever thought it was. Not really much of a sword, just kind of a beam of light, really. Speaking of beams of light, I was surprised by how merciful this was. The hit detectors are nowhere near the diameter of the blast, and I was expecting just a tube hitbox. This calls for a tube, you know what I mean? I love tubes. Oh well. He also handles kicks differently than any other boss as well. Kicks like Gunders spawn full-sized and simply swing out to meet you, whereas Soul of Cinders extends with the kick, expanding through with the animation. And it kind of looks like he's doing a little jig. And that's just fun for the whole family. But what isn't fun for the whole family and makes children cry is this combo we all know and love. Good God, look at the size of that thing. If any part of you touches that, you get looped into the grab animation. Good thing they put that little shoulder check so you couldn't strafe it. Yeah, okay, the hitbox covers the entire body. This must be the largest grab detector relative to a boss's size I have ever seen. Compare all that to what just a normal grab detector on this boss looks like. Doesn't seem so bad at all now. But overall, this is still one of my favorite bosses in the entire game. And these Dark Souls 3 videos have been a blast to make. Feel free to check out the other videos we have on the channel, and remember to subscribe so you can see part 2 releasing soon. Also, likes and comments go a long way to help other people that may like the video see it. But as always, thanks for watching.
This channel that we've been listening to / watching, by the way, is called Babe 1, Babe 2. Alright, and that's gonna be it for today. Let's raid out, if there's anyone to raid. Let's raid Yummy Gulp. Because Yummy is live once more. Thank y'all for coming. See you tomorrow for Danky Kings. And, yeah. That's that. You could also check out the Convergence mod for Elden Ring sometime. I've played a little bit of it. It's interesting and a little brutal. But yeah. Peace out. Hydrate. Get some food. And other good things. Take care.